Overgeneralization. What is it? How does it work? How am I guilty of it? Well, Annalene and Mummy God. I don't remember exactly how this conversation went because there are pieces missing. But I was talking about Epstein. Yeah. And, well, Annalene and Mummy God said, basically, I said that the bots on Reddit, which there are bots on Reddit, they're right-wing, and they push right-wing ideologies. And Annalene and Mummy God, and I accused this church. I said it was either you or the CIA. That's what I said. I said it's either you guys or the CIA because you're right-wingers. And he was like, and why do you think my entire church and every member's a right-winger? And I laughed and said the King James Bible is an authoritarian text. So you're authoritarians. You are. Yep. And he was like, oh, so you're just going to assume that every evil thing on the planet is my church? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, what about microtransactions for games? And I said, this definitely you people. And he was, so you just think we're the root of all evil and there isn't any other evil churches out there? And I told him I had no doubt that all other churches participated in evil activities. That to some extent, that I'd even had a working theory that the Freemasons were actually church leaders that came together to defend each other's human trafficking rings and discuss how to divide up territories. And he said, stay away from the Freemasons. Okay. He then said, well, Bobby, I got news for you. It's Epstein that created microtransactions for games. And it's Epstein that controls the bots on Reddit that create extreme right-wing authoritarian fascists. And Epstein's not a member of my church. In fact, he's we're not going to get into that. And he was like, in fact, he's also and he's redacted. But we do business with him, as all human trafficking rings should. And I was like, so what? And he was, has anybody ever accused you of overgeneralizing? And I said, let me think. And I replied, the detectives. When I was in Ackworth, Georgia, I kept randomly, I don't know how I was doing this because I had a retarded brain, but it's just how my brain works. I caught Gannon. He was driving his fucking silver van near my house, and then I guess he was doing something he wasn't supposed to be doing because the detectives were really interested in that. And then I said Gannon was a part of Stu's church, to which the detective said, how do you know that? And I told them I didn't, but I assume so because they're all defending the same human trafficking ring. To which the detective said, don't overgeneralize. You're assuming because these people did something bad to you, that they are the root of all evil, and they're the only evil sons of bitches on the planet. And you're sitting here literally telling us that that these people are the only ones doing it. And I was like, so what? These guys are both doing something they shouldn't be doing, and they know they shouldn't be doing it, and they look each other in the face and go, hey man, we're both doing something we shouldn't be doing. Help me, help you, help me, to make sure that nobody knows. And then the detectives just walked off. They didn't say anything to me after that. And I just shrugged and I ignored the situation. So they come back and they asked me about Stu, and I'm like, well, I didn't see Stu, but whatever the shit was, it was about some other guy. But I was like, that guy's obviously a part of Stu's church. I was like, wait, that's overgeneralizing. And they're like, no, we'll look into it. And then they came back, and we talked. I talked for a long time. And they just kept telling me, stop overgeneralizing. Every time you're like, Stu did it. Stu did it. Stu has an alibi. He has a place he was. There's no way he could have done it. There's no way. But there are other people who are a part of his church that did it, or could have done it. And they know that because, well, other people came forward. Other people said this person was there, or one of the people from his church was funny because he was doing like everything Stu wanted, but his mother had a tracking app on him, so she knew where he was the entire time, and she was the one that ended up actually turning him in. These stupid things, by the way, kept happening. They kept happening. Yeah. And it was little things like this. It was little people giving a little bit of information that they probably themselves, like this guy's mother, probably was like, oh no, he was just hanging around the trailer park up there in Red Top. That's just what he does. That's probably not important. The detectives were like, that's very important, because now we have a guy that's placed at the crime scene, thanks to your little app. This kind of thing kept happening throughout this stupid investigation with Stu. And it was micro information coming from all over that seemed unrelated, and the detectives continuously telling me you're overgeneralizing. And then he was like, in the biggest thing with these guys, like Gannon stuck his own boat, because I don't remember the guy's name, but Gannon told me to look up some webpage. It had some creepy old guy on it looking like he probably hypnotizes hobos behind gutters or some shit. He looked like a complete fucking garbage can. And Gannon was like, that guy's the greatest serial killer of all time with over 10,000 victims and blah, 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 blah. And then I told the detectives Gannon said that, and then Gannon was like, I never said that. Bobby's crazy. And this is a thing they do. It's like, it's gaslighting. They say something, and then they say, I never said that. And then the detectives would come back to me, and they're like, are you certain? He said, that's a 1,000,000% he fucking said that to me. And when I told them to check out the page, they're like, well, this is the thing. They're like, do you understand how incriminating this looks? You told us about this webpage that has this guy on it who's actually a church leader. Yeah, I didn't know that creepy weird guy was a church leader. He's like of a rogue group that's a tax exempt, like, recognized group, and you're literally telling me he's a serial killer, and you know that. And then you're telling me that Gannon told you, and then he's telling us that it was like. Now, Stu did the same thing, where Stu would give me information, and then when he talked to the detectives, he would just lie. Which, I wonder if I just told them I wish you guys had to tell the truth in every situation, if that would just solve this lying problem. If, like, they would just be forced to turn themselves in, just, oh, fuck, integrity, yep, you're going to prison where you belong. But basically, the detective dudes get agitated with me because every time they talk to me, I overgeneralize. This guy's a complete piece of shit. This entire group of people needs to be dead. These people, and at one point, the detective guy kind of got, like, really agitated with me, and he was like, if you had the power, would you just slaughter every member of this church? Because you believe everybody's in on this single conspiracy. And I told them, if I had the power, I would take something like the FBI and sort out the idiots from the guys that actually know. And I was like, and here's the thing, the guys that actually know are going to be playing stupid the entire time, so nobody would get out of this 100% free. There would be people on watch list. I was like, if people called and said, this dickhead's up to no good, this dickhead's doing something he's not supposed to be doing, that guy would go to court, and he would be fighting at a complete disadvantage because of his history and because of his affiliation with the church. And I remember the detectives were like, that's an extremely harsh sentence for people who are completely innocent and didn't know any better, and then you're just going to go, if they fuck up, they go to prison. I told him that's the way it has to be. I was like, it's unfortunate that evil people do this, but evil people do this, and it's more important that you catch the evil people. That way, you don't have to worry about them propagating and recreating what they're doing in other environments. And then the detective guys were like, I like it. They're like, it's fair to some extent. And he's like, outside of the fact that you get a speeding ticket, you end up in prison. And I was like, yeah, probably. You can tell I didn't care because I don't care about religion. So this is the thing, my brain wasn't working because it was destroyed with heavy metals. Had I been able to actually process this information, I would have been able to integrate it into my higher conscience and been able to think more rationally. It would have explained the weird comments from people who are not actually members of this church who randomly accused me of being a serial killer whenever I brought up Stu as a fucking serial killer, and all serial killers are just religious nuts that are committing human sacrifices for their stupid fucking churches. It's kind of like my sister's old boyfriend, not her new one, who's clearly fucking a lunatic, but my sister's old boyfriend, that loser kept being like, oh, and you think the church did that? Oh, no, I know the church did that. And it's a thing they do. It's gaslighting. It's them pretending that the church is somehow holy. And this is the thing, 1984. Everything is the opposite of what it is. The church isn't good, it's evil, okay? The Department of Mental Health is the Department of Mental Illness, okay? The Department of fucking of Rights is the Department of Oppression, okay? Everything's backwards, and I guess that's just a factor with fucking churches, is everything's fucking backwards. So I could probably list a couple more times where I overgeneralized, and even not the main detective, but the other detective was like, if you believe that every member of their church is fucking evil, stop talking to your cuddle buddy. Stop hanging out with her. Because she's fucking evil. Which, to be fair to them, I should have done that. That one's on me. And then they were like, well, do you think Witchy Poo is evil? And I was like, no. And then she's like, well, she's a member of this church. Do you think this person's evil? And I was like, no. And they're like, well, guess what? They're a member of this church. And they ran down this fucking overgeneralized explaining that some of the people knew about the human sacrifices. They knew they were defending a bastard. And other ones didn't. And I don't 100% agree with that. I don't. Because when I was president, I found out it's something like 70% of the church knows that their church leader has to kill 6 kids and 7 women, and they lie about everything, and they put innocent people in prison to defend their bastard. That's just how it be, bro. Yeah. So, anyways, I come back to Anal Eating Mummy God. I can't remember the list. It really bothers me. But he just lists a series of things that are fucked up in society and are done by different religious groups that are not his church. Yeah. Eddie was like, you're so hyper fixated on that one thing. He's like, you're not thinking in terms, and I thought I always fucking think in terms. I was like, there's the small mind and there's the bigger mind. Okay, the small mind is everything you can control right here. The bigger mind is meteorites, asteroids, solar flares, explosions, things that are out of your control. I was like, I always think in the bigger mind, and I was not doing what I said I was doing. To be fair, LSD and Tetraled has a way of shrinking your vision and having you hyper-focus on a single entity. I've done that my entire life, though. When I left high school, I was completely obsessed with the alpha inferiority complex, and I couldn't fucking stand them, and I wanted to smash their heads with rocks. And when I talked about psychology, that was the only psychology I talked about. When I was in high school, I kept talking about mental disorders. OCD, ADHD, ADD, all these things. I found them fascinating. And I would just hyper-focus on that one thing. And I guess kind of like now, I'm just kind of hyper-focused on this church. And the horrible shit they did. But I mean, I guess the overgeneralization is every religion's bad because I guess they all do human sacrifices. We got into an argument over Bibles. Whatever, book, sacred text, scrolls, all that shit. And he was talking about, Anal Eating Mummy God mentioned there's a dude from the Middle East I worked with that him and Gannon seemed pretty buddy-buddy. And they weren't buddies, but they were buddy-buddy, but they weren't buddies, but they were buddy-buddy. And he explained that they're from different religions, but they handshake on human trafficking. And I just start to wonder, Is the truth about religion, it turns you into an incel, and the only way you can get women is through human trafficking? I wonder if that's the truth, because, like, when it comes to incelibacy, I mean, I kind of have the ultimate excuse. This church murders any woman I like, so there's that. Like, Stu was literally down here not too long ago murdering a woman because I jokingly said I liked her. Which, I guess he's going to be busy doing that because I like a lot of things. And like I said, I still remember Blondie. I was commenting on her girl's picture, and he's like, "Stop doing that! We're gonna have to go kill her because we're fucking crazy!" Like, I am not responsible for your actions. I am not responsible for your actions. You're doing that because you're a piece of shit. That has nothing to do with me. You could stop and go the fuck home. You're not gonna, because you're bastards, and you can't help yourself. You don't have any goddamn self-control. But we get into this stupid fucking argument. Oh, it's not a stupid fucking argument. And he was like, so you've been overgeneralizing since forever. And I brought up this time in 5th grade. I was dealing with this kid, and I started getting fucking... I don't even remember exactly what it was. The kid was just a fucking cock. And I had made the overgeneralization, everybody that behaved like him was a piece of shit. And Italy Mummy God's like, if you go into this situation thinking like that, you're going into a world of hurt. And then he was like, when you initially reported the church, you said you didn't want a bunch of innocent people to go to prison, arrest the bigwigs, and the little peons will follow. And then he was like, what if I told you, basically churches have a brother in court, kind of like pirates and the Pirates of the Caribbean. And I was like, I'm listening. And there's a code. And it wouldn't make sense to you because you're on the outside, but if you're on the inside, the code makes perfect sense. And he basically was like, and I got nothing. That's more shit hypnotized out of my head. That's it. That's what I anyways, whatever that stuff was about, it was about overgeneralizing, assuming Epstein acted alone, assuming that there's not a bunch of other people under Epstein who need to be in prison, assuming that Epstein, that you can somehow put one man in prison and not arrest anybody else involved in the human trafficking, and somehow that solves the problem with human trafficking. Yeah. Isn't that some shit? So in a nutshell, I think America literally runs on blood. I think that we have the copyright to blood, and we market that to other people. I don't know why I just brought that up. Makes sense, though.